On my wedding day, in front of everyone, my wife slapped me, all because I didn't give up my seat for her mother. She then demanded that I apologize to her or leave the wedding. Without hesitation, I walked out, leaving everything behind. Now, she's frantically calling me, begging for forgiveness. The grand hall shimmered with golden chandeliers. The scent of fresh roses and expensive perfume filled the air. Laughter and whispers of excitement echoed off the marble walls as guests took their seats, dressed in their finest attire. It was a wedding straight out of a dream, elegant, extravagant, and attended by the crème de la crème of society. Cameras flashed, capturing every moment, every smile, every stolen glance between the bride and groom's families. I stood at the altar, my suit pristine, my tie perfectly knotted. Every detail of this day had been meticulously planned, down to the color of the napkins on the reception tables. It was supposed to be perfect, our day. My hands were steady, my expression calm. But inside, there was an uneasy stirring I couldn't quite place. And then Sophia appeared. She was breathtaking. The lace of her gown clung to her frame, her veil cascading like a waterfall of silk. The entire room stilled, captivated by her beauty. Her eyes met mine, and for a brief moment I felt reassured. Whatever doubts had plagued me before faded. This was my bride. The woman I had chosen. Then her mother stepped forward. Margaret had always been a force of nature, imposing, elegant, and utterly self-absorbed. From the moment I proposed to Sophia, she had made it clear that she would always be involved, always have a say. Yet, I had convinced myself that once we were married, we would carve out our own lives, separate from her influence. That illusion shattered in an instant. Margaret's sharp eyes scanned the room before fixing on me. "You're in my seat?" she said. The words were low, but in the silence of anticipation, they might as well have been shouted through a megaphone. I frowned, confused. "Your seat? This is my wedding? The seat beside Sophia is meant for me." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Move," she said. A murmur rippled through the guests, heads turning, whispering. I remained still. This wasn't happening. "Not here, not now." "I'm not moving," I said, my voice firm. Sophia's face twisted in panic. She turned to her mother, then back to me. "Just do it," she whispered under her breath. "Please." I looked at her, really looked at her, and that feeling, the unease, became something sharp and unmistakable. "No," I said. Margaret's face darkened. Her polished veneer slipped for a fraction of a second before she regained control. But Sophia snapped before I could react. Her palm struck my face, a loud, resounding slap that threw the silence. Gasps erupted. A few guests stood in shock while others whispered, some shifting awkwardly in their seats. The cameras caught it all. I did not move. Sophia's chest heaved. Her hands trembled at her sides. Her eyes were wild, a mix of anger, desperation, and something else. Fear. "Apologize," she demanded. My cheek burned. But the sting wasn't just physical, it was the humiliation. The sheer disbelief that my bride, the woman who had sworn to love me, had just publicly disrespected me in front of hundreds of people. I glanced at her mother, standing tall with a small, victorious smirk on her lips. And in that moment, everything became clear. I had ignored too much. The way Sophia never stood up to her mother, the way decisions about our future had always gone through Margaret first, the way I had never truly been the priority. I was just another piece in their perfect little puzzle. The weight of realization settled in my chest like a stone. I adjusted my suit, straightened my tie, took a slow, measured breath, and then, with a calmness that silenced the entire room, I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. The sound of my footsteps on the marble floor was drowned out by Sophia's hysterical sobbing. Margaret's voice rose in anger, berating her daughter. Guests scrambled to process what had just happened, some filming, some murmuring, some sneaking out before the drama got any worse. The wedding was over before it had even begun. As I walked out of the grand hall, the sounds of gasps, murmurs, and muffled sobs trailed behind me. The weight of the moment hadn't fully settled, but the decision had already been made. My face still burned from the slap, but the sting wasn't just physical. It was something deeper, something that gnawed at my pride, my dignity. The cool evening air hit me as I stepped outside, loosening my tie with a sharp pull. My car was parked just beyond the grand entrance, where rows of luxury vehicles gleamed under the golden glow of the venue's lights. A valet rushed toward me, but I waved him away. I needed to be alone. Just as I opened the car door, my phone buzzed. It was my best man, Kevin. I hesitated before answering. "Are you out of your mind?" His voice was a mix of disbelief and concern. "You just walked out of your own wedding." "She slapped me in front of hundreds of people," I said evenly, gripping the steering wheel but making no move to drive. Kevin sighed. "Yeah, I saw that. Everyone saw that." There was a pause, then he added, "But man, this is huge." I didn't need to check my phone to know what he meant. Social media, live recordings, photos. The wedding that was supposed to be a perfect union had turned into a public spectacle, a disaster. "What's happening in there?" I asked, though I wasn't sure if I even cared. Kevin exhaled loudly. Sophia collapsed, full-on breakdown. Margaret's losing her mind, yelling at everyone. Guests are taking sides. Some think you should have just apologized and gone through with it, but most think she crossed the line. I closed my eyes. Of course, there were people who would say I should have apologized, that I should have swallowed my pride, let it slide, and taken my place next to my bride. But what kind of man would that have made me? A weak one. A man who would have spent the rest of his life bending to Margaret's will, always second, always expected to make sacrifices for someone else's comfort. I wasn't that man. I never would be. Kevin spoke again. Dude, Margaret just tried to take the mic. Security had to step in. That almost made me laugh. I don't care what she says, I muttered. I'm done. There was a long silence before Kevin spoke again. Then I'll handle things here. You just... He stopped. You should probably turn your phone off. Man, it's everywhere. I didn't need more details. I ended the call, shut my phone off, tossed it onto the passenger seat, and let my head rest against the steering wheel. For a moment, I just breathed. The night stretched before me like an open road, uncertain, unexpected, but mine. Then, without another glance at the venue, I started the car and drove away. Inside the wedding hall, chaos erupted. Sophia sat on the floor, her white dress pooling around her like a fallen angel. Tears streamed down her face, mascara smudging as she let out shaky sobs. I didn't mean to, she kept repeating, her voice broken. Margaret's voice boomed over the chatter. Get up, Sophia, this is exclamation mark. Her mother stood above her, eyes blazing, hands clenched into fists. Her perfect, composed exterior had cracked, revealing the rage beneath. You let him, you, Margaret hissed, pulling Sophia up roughly by the arm. Sophia shook her head, her lips trembling. I didn't think he'd actually... You slapped him. Sophia's father, James, his deep voice carrying across the hall. He had been silent until now, watching everything unfold with barely concealed disappointment. He ran a hand through his graying hair, his jaw tight. What the did you expect? Sophia flinched, her lower lip wobbling. I was just upset. He should have listened. He should have left you the moment your mother tried to control him, James said coldly. Margaret whipped around, eyes flashing. James, no. He snapped. Enough, James snapped. This is on you, Margaret. You've spent years making her think she could have everything exactly the way you wanted it. You raised her to believe that your word was law. Well, guess what? The man she was supposed to marry, he's not like us. He wasn't going to bow down to you. Sophia in her breath, staring at her father in shock. Margaret's face darkened, but James wasn't finished. He gestured to the guests, who were still watching, whispering, filming. This is what you've done. You've ruined our family's name. And you... He turned to Sophia. You've ruined your future. Sophia broke down completely, but Margaret, even in the face of disaster, wasn't willing to admit defeat. This isn't over, she hissed, eyes narrowing. He'll come back. James let out a short, humorless laugh. If you really believe that, you're more delusional than I thought. Meanwhile, social media erupted. Mobile phones were trending now with headlines like Runaway Groom, The Slap Wedding, Respect is Earned, and Breaking News. The most extravagant wedding of the year ended in shock as the bride slapped the groom. Watch the full clip here. Comments poured in. She lost a good man. For what? Money moves. But I would have left too. Respect goes both ways. At Toxic King 69. Why do I feel like the mom is the real villain here? At Feminine Queen. He should have it up. A slap isn't that serious. At Me's No Nonsense. Bet she's regretting it now. I parked my car by the beach. The waves crashed against the shore, a soothing rhythm in contrast to the storm I had just walked away from. For the first time in months, I felt free. I didn't know what would happen next, how the world would spin my name into their narratives, how Sophia would handle the aftermath. But none of that mattered, because for once, I wasn't fighting for control. I had already won. I disappeared. No calls, no texts, no explanations. Just gone. The world outside raged on, with headlines, viral clips, and speculation, but I refused to be part of it. After leaving the wedding hall, I drove until the city lights faded in my rearview mirror. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay where people could find me. So, I chose silence. A secluded resort on the coast became my hiding place, a world far removed from the chaos I had left behind. The staff knew nothing about me, and that was exactly how I wanted it. No one whispered my name here. No one judged me. No one cared. For the first time in years, I could breathe. But while I embraced the silence, Sophia fell apart. Back in the city, she was in ruins. Her messages flooded my phone, hundreds of unread texts, dozens of missed calls. Each one was more desperate than the last. Please pick up, I need to talk to you. I made a mistake, please let me explain. I love you, don't do this to me. I can't eat, I can't sleep, everyone's turned against me. Please, I just need to hear your voice. Her last message had come 2 days ago. Are you really never coming back? I had no answer. The world had seen her for who she was, entitled, explosive, unapologetic. Now, without me to shield her, she was drowning. Social media tore her apart. The bride who slapped her groom. The slap wedding was still trending. A relationship expert went on live TV and said, any woman who slaps her husband before the vows doesn't deserve the wedding. People started making memes about her. Some were bad, others were brutal. She had become a joke. Even her father wanted nothing to do with it. James had been publicly silent, but behind closed doors, he made his feelings clear. He distanced himself from his own daughter, refusing to defend her actions. The wealthy families who had once respected them now whispered about the scandal. Deals were quietly pulled away. Partnerships were suddenly cancelled. Sophia wasn't just heartbroken, she was ruined. But Margaret was different. She still refused to admit defeat. She told everyone that I was weak, that I had overreacted, that if I had been a real man, I would have understood that Sophia had only lashed out in stress. Her interviews were carefully orchestrated. She never apologized, never admitted that her interference had driven me away. Instead, she called it a misunderstanding, telling reporters that I would come back once I had calmed down. Margaret thought I was still part of her game. That was her mistake. Kevin was the only one who knew where I was. He called, but I rarely answered. When I did, he always had something new to report. Dude, Sophia's still spiraling, he said one evening. I don't think she's left her apartment in days. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the waves crashing against the shore. Not my problem, I said. She's miserable, man, Kevin added. I took a sip of my drink, letting the cold liquid burn down my throat. That's not my problem either. Kevin exhaled into the phone. You really don't care? I was silent for a moment. I don't know what I feel. Because the truth is, I did care. Or at least, I had. I had loved her. I had planned a future with her. I had ignored all the warning signs because I thought love could fix everything. I was wrong. She's still trying to call you, Kevin added. I sighed. I know. And Margaret's out there pretending like nothing happened. She even said in an interview that you're just taking some time and that you'll be back soon. I smirked at that. Then she's in for a shock. Kevin chuckled. Yeah, I figured as much. He hesitated, then said, look man, what happens now? I'd been avoiding that question, because I didn't know. All I knew was that I was never going back. Sophia had crossed a line, and once that line was crossed, there was no undoing it. I wasn't just taking time to think, I was making peace with the fact that the life I had planned was over. That Sophia and I were over. That there was no fixing this, ever. And the sooner she realized that, the better. Because I had no intention of answering her calls, no intention of responding to her texts, no intention of ever looking back. I had ghosted her, and that wasn't going to change. The ocean breeze was different at night, calmer, quieter, carrying only the soft sound of waves rolling against the shore. I sat on the wooden deck of the small beachfront villa I had rented, staring at the dark horizon, letting my mind drift. The past few days had been a blur, a mixture of silence, long walks, and an avoidance of anything that reminded me of her. But avoidance could only last so long, because the truth had finally caught up with me. I had been blind. Maybe I had always known deep down that something wasn't right. Maybe I had ignored the warning signs because I wanted so badly to believe that Sophia and I were different. That we were more than just another power couple, another business deal disguised as love. But love was supposed to feel effortless, and ours never had. It had always been a fight. A fight to prove myself, a fight to be seen, a fight against the presence that had been lurking over our relationship from the beginning. Margaret. The more I sat with my thoughts, the clearer it became. Sophia had never been in control. She had never made a single decision without her mother's approval. Every aspect of our relationship had been shaped by Margaret's opinions, her expectations, her silent, looming influence. And the few times Sophia had tried to stand on her own, Margaret had always pulled her back in. I thought back to all the moments I had dismissed as small things. The way Sophia always asked for Margaret's input before we made any big decisions. The way her mother micromanaged our engagement party, deciding who was invited and even choosing Sophia's dress. The way Margaret had forced her way into our wedding planning, treating it not as a celebration of love, but as a business event. And then there was the most obvious sign of all, the moment Margaret demanded I vacate my own seat at my own wedding, and Sophia had slapped me for refusing. That was when it clicked. I had spent months telling myself that Sophia was different from her mother. But that wasn't true. Sophia had been raised to believe that Margaret's word was law. And when I refused to bow down, she had reacted the only way she knew how, by trying to put me in my place.